Hello everyone. We are going to understand what is feature, what are the important features in HR, and steps to configure feature. What is feature? Feature, there are two purposes of feature. The first one, it is used to default values in the corresponding info types. The second one, it controls the entire system processes. What does it mean like defaulting the values in the corresponding info type? So in the next slide, it will be more clear. The transaction code to access any feature is PE03. Make a note of it. It is very important transaction code. So what are the important features in HR? So these are the important features. And if you see each of these feature, the purpose of the feature is to store some value in the info type. Each feature is assigned to a specific, I would say, info type. Like for example, numkr, NUMKR, the purpose of this feature is to default the personal number in this info type called actions, which is 0000. So in my previous lecture, you know what are the names of this info type. So you know what is 000 means, and similarly 0001. So the purpose of the feature numkr is to store the personal number or default the personal number in info type actions. Similarly, ABKRS to default the payroll area in info type 1. The feature pinch is used to default the administrator group in info type 1. Similarly, there are some other features called SCHKZ, which is used to default the work schedule rule in info type 7. Feature tariff is used to default the pay scale type and pay scale area in info type 8. So what basically you are understanding from here is that each feature has its own purpose. Like it is showing you what it does, what it is defaulting in a specific info type. Like ABKRS is dedicated to default the payroll area in info type 1 because payroll area is a part of info type 1. I mean payroll area is a field in info type 1. So ABKR it defaults. So defaulting means it is reducing the administration effort on the end user. He doesn't have to every time enter the values in some of the fields because those values will be auto populated. So it will save some time for them. So that is the most important advantage of the feature, that it defaults the values in certain fields of the info type, and it depends which feature you are using. If you are using ABKRS, the purpose of ABKR is to default the payroll area. So how will you basically tell the system default this particular value in that particular info type? It depends upon the decision tree. Decision tree is nothing but how you are basically creating a feature telling the system, okay, if this employee belongs to the company, or if this employee belongs to country USA, and if he belongs to company code this, if he belongs to employee group this, if he belongs to employee subgroup this, then it should return or it should default this payroll area in info type 1. So that is nothing but a decision tree. So decision can be made on the parameters like company code, and these are the technical names I just gave you. In the next slide I will show you exactly how we are going to configure the feature. So I told you to configure the feature, you have to go to the transaction code PE03. So now you must be familiar with the transaction code, where to enter the transaction code, and and basically go to the particular task. So you entered the transaction code PE03 in the command bar. When you press enter, it takes you to this screen. So it takes you to this screen, which is nothing but the features. Now here you have to enter the name of the feature, like I entered ABKRS. So the purpose of this feature is to default the payroll area. So how to configure this feature is like, when in the previous screen you entered the name of this feature and then you click on the change button. When you click on the change button, then you can configure the feature here. Just look at this example. It says if the employee belongs to the country number 25, which is Singapore, and if the employee belongs to the employee subgroup full-time hourly, then default the value R1, which is nothing but payroll area. So if the employee belongs to the country Singapore and if that employee belongs to the employee subgroup A1, which is nothing but full-time hourly, in that case this feature, what it does, it defaults the value R1 in the info type 1, because the purpose of the feature ABKRS is to default payroll area in info type 1. So let's see practically like how basically we will be creating feature. So I will show you here. So first of all, let's take example of payroll area. So how to first basically create payroll area, let me explain you that, and then we will see how the feature can be used to default the payroll area. So where is the payroll area configured? So payroll area is configured under the, you have to go the navigation like this. So when you come here, display IMG, or I'll show you from the beginning, like, you know, so this is the screen. When you log in, you will come to this screen, you type SPRO, hit enter, it will take you to this screen, and then you basically click IMG, and then you have to come down, you see here personnel management, expand this. When you expanded this one, you see personnel administration here, right? So now you expand this personal administration, then you go to organizational data here. When you expand the organizational data, you have to expand the organizational assignment, and here you see the payroll area. Just see the navigation, how you started. You expanded personal management, then you expanded personal administration, then you expanded organizational data, and lastly you expanded organizational assignment. Organizational assignment is basically, it stores the payroll area, right? Info type 1 has the payroll area field. If you see my slides in the previous section lecture, you saw the screenshot of info type 1, it has a payroll area there. So now when you click on this particular clock here, create payroll area, it is the same way. You go to new entries and then you give the name of the payroll area. So I have created a payroll area called Zenith monthly. This is something like I created. Okay, this is only for the people who are monthly. If we recall what is payroll area in my earlier lecture, the definition of the payroll area was to group the employees together for whom the payroll is run on the same time. So I am grouping these employees because this Zenith monthly will be used for those employees whose payroll will be running on a monthly basis. So similarly, you can have hourly or semi-monthly, bi-weekly, whatever the group of employees are existing in the company. I mean, it totally depends upon you. So that's what I always say you, like whenever you practice, you have to have a notebook and then you design the structure, and then you divide your employees and then create the payroll areas. So here I created the payroll area called ZM, which is Zenith monthly. Now after creating this, now let me show how to configure the feature. I told you the transaction code for the feature is PE03. Now when you type PE03 from this command bar, if you hit enter, it won't go anywhere. Why? Because transaction code always starts from here. here. But if you are already in some other screen, like if you are in this screen, in that case, if you want to go to a new transaction, because if you remember here, I enter the transaction SPRO. SPRO is a transaction code which takes you to the configuration side, right? Now you're already in this transaction code of SPRO. Now you want to access another transaction code from this screen. In that situation, what you do, you enter /n, then you enter the transaction code what you're trying to access. So what it does, basically it terminates this particular screen or transaction or the task, and it takes you directly to this particular transaction code. But you have to always enter /n, because you are into different transaction and you are trying to go to a different task, I would say, or different transaction. In that way, you always have to enter /n. /n is not needed if you are in the beginning screen, because you are into the main screen. /n is always needed when you are already in some other transaction or task and then you are trying to go somewhere else from here. Let me put /n and then PE03. See, I hit enter, it took me to, basically it will be blank here. This is the screen. Now you can basically enter the feature name ABKRS. Now I enter the feature name. I press enter. When I hit enter, it will show the name of this feature, which is default value for payroll area. Now you click on this change icon. Now this screen will come up. Now this is the decision tree. It means you are instructing the system the decision when the payroll area should be populated in info type 1. So if you see here, I have decided, like, okay, fine, if the country is like USA, then the payroll area should be ZS. So let me delete this and then explain you again how basically I configured the payroll area. So initially this was the screen. I expanded and there was already decision on country grouping. Now I don't see my country USA here. So what I'm going to do is I'm highlighting my cursor on this particular node and then click on create nodes here. See, I highlighted my cursor. This is very important. If you highlight somewhere else, it won't work. If you highlight here, it won't work. So basically you have to highlight here and then click on the create here. When you click on the create, now it is telling you, okay, you want your country grouping, pick up your country grouping. So I picked up 10 and then I clicked on the tick mark. Now it shows you 10. Now it is asking you, okay, do you want to further decide or you have some other decisions? If you say yes, and if you click create here, there are two things. Either you want to end up your decision, meaning that, okay, if the employee belongs to country group 10, I mean the country 10, then my decision is done. I want to give the default value. In that case, you can just have this radio button and click on this one. And it will tell you, okay, what is your default value? I would say ZM, that was my payroll area, which is Zenith monthly. So I said transfer it. See how it came. So if an employee belongs to the country USA, then he will be automatically populated a payroll area of ZM in info type 1. So again, if you want to have other decisions, like apart from country grouping, you want to have like some other decisions, like, okay, fine, let me delete and tell you. You say, okay, fine, the country grouping, okay, let me take USA, and when you take USA, now the country grouping is USA. Now again, if you want to decide based on some other decision, in that case you have to select this radio button, which is nothing but field for decision operation, and then hit enter. Now it will say you, okay, fine, do you want to decide some your decisions on one of this one? If you say yes, I want to decide based on the company code, now it will come up here. See, now the decision is like if the employee belongs to country 10 and if the employee belongs to one company code. Which company code? Again you have to highlight this cursor, again you have to create enter, it will show you the list of the company codes. And once you picked up your company code, then you can end up your feature. In our case, let us end up by the country so that it's very simple for you to understand. So I have created a feature for the country 10, but I have to give a default value. So I'm going to click on the create notes. I'm returning the value. Return value is the last step in your decision, meaning that you're returning the value. That's it. Your decision is completed. Now you are returning the default value. So what is that default value? I am putting ZM. You cannot put any alphabets here like this, because you have to enter ZM, I mean the value of the payroll area. You remember the payroll area I have created is ZM. Now this ZM will be auto populated in info type 1 if the employee belongs to the country 10. I hit transfer. When I hit transfer, now it shows me the payroll area is here. Now I go save. So again it prompts with the request number as told earlier. You just have to hit enter. Now the status is saved. Always make sure to activate the status, or sometimes when you're in the saved, this value will not be defaulted. So make sure you always activate. So again it will ask you. Now the status is active. See, done. The feature is generated. The feature was generated. So if the employee belongs to country 10, then ZM will be populated. Let's see how it's going to be populated. Go to a transaction code called PA40. This I will explain you in the end of this personal administration, when we really hire an employee. That time you will be understanding what is the purpose of PA40. But just for this purpose, I will explain you what is PA40. PA40 is the transaction code when you basically hire a person or you are performing any action. So like I am basically hiring an employee. For example, I'm just showing you. So you don't have to worry where this came from. This is a separate section, I would say separate lecture. So now the purpose of showing you here is how the payroll area is defaulted. So now when you select action and when you execute this personal actions, this is the first info type which comes up, which is info type actions. And whenever there are some values to be entered, it will basically put up your error, and then you basically have to enter the values here. This is already configured in the coming classes. So here basically just concentrate on what I'm trying to show you. This is info type actions, which is 0000. Now when I save this, now the next info type came up is organizational assignment, which is info type 1. Concentrate on this one, payroll area. How this value came up, ZM monthly, because we created the feature for the payroll area giving a decision. If the employee belongs to country 10, then default this payroll area. And now how the system knows that this employee belongs to country 10? If you remember to the previous sections, we assigned this personal area to the company code and country grouping 10. That is the main key point you have to remember. Otherwise it is difficult for you to find, hey, how does the system know this employee belongs to the country 10? That is the place where we assigned the personal area to the company code and country grouping. So the system knows that if an employee belongs to this personal area, means he belongs to country grouping 10. And as per the feature ABKRS, we already gave a decision that if the employee belongs to the country 10, then default the payroll area ZM. So that is the purpose of feature. Similarly, there are other features which default certain values in those specific info types, but the steps to configure the feature will be similar for all the features. You have to go and make your decision on which particular field you want to decide and give a return value. So hope you enjoyed this class. Practice yourself with this feature and then start working on other features. Thank you.